Hey everybody, before we begin, I just want to announce that my second merch drop is now available over at metathreads.com/Datto if you are interested. Got some pretty good stuff here for you guys. We got some t-shirts like the Hawkmoon tee, Levels tee, got the Framework tee, some long sleeves as well if you're interested. This is actually one of my favorites of the entire set that we got here. I know a lot of people are asking me for a zip-up hoodie, so we got a zip-up hoodie this time. Some accessories, got the snapback hat, got a couple of mouse pads, and reversible face masks. So you got pink on one side, green on the other, whatever side you want to do. We also have a couple more limited items. These are going to be limited in quantity, kind of doing them as a test run to gauge interest. So if there's a lot of interest, we can definitely get more. Follow my Twitter to find out when these are going to be available for purchase, because they are technically not available as I'm recording this on the 16th. Everything else is made to order, so no worries about that. Everything else right here, all made to order. The campaign's going to go until December 1st. Items should be shipping around mid-December, and those of you in the US should get them around Christmas time, but international is going to take a little bit longer. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the video.
Fire away from berries.
Beyond Light. First impressions. Let's talk. There's going to be spoilers in this video. I suggest you finish the campaign and like a good chunk of the post-campaign if you want to avoid some spoilers in this video. Let's start with story and campaign content. I enjoyed it more than Shadowkeep's campaign, partly because Europa is a brand new destination, and the mood wasn't, for me anyway. The campaign is going to take you around 3 to 6 hours depending on how slow or fast you go and how much you struggle on certain bosses. Something that I felt was underappreciated was how on task the campaign stayed. In Shadowkeep, there was what felt like a lot of busy work during the campaign. In Beyond Light, I didn't really feel that way very often. There were a couple of times where the busy work happened, but it didn't keep you trapped there for very long, and the prospect of checking out a new area also helped alleviate that. The post-campaign content, it didn't feel too shabby either. The few missions to defeat Aramis's successor were pretty fun, and exploring some new territory on Europa was nice as well. But Empire hunts are literally just story missions, but again, of various difficulties, at least going into the future. Kind of feels like a wasted opportunity not turning them into strikes. Man, the tone has really shifted since Warmind, hasn't it? Europa is massive and beautiful, and I know I said the moon might be the biggest destination we've ever had, but I think Europa probably takes that trophy. It is a great destination, but I will say that we could really use a fast travel point in the northern part of the map, especially considering how often we need to go up there. I really enjoyed the boss encounters, especially when I was under-leveled, although based on some stories I've heard about people struggling in these fights, that feels like a hot take. I've seen some people ask for refunds because they couldn't handle some of these boss fights by themselves. Actually having a challenge in story content was quite refreshing for me anyway, even if you could just avoid it by leveling up a little bit more. Things definitely had a Forsaken type vibe though, with the whole here's Aramis's council, go hunt them down kind of deal, which is where I feel like some people might have taken some points off for the rating of the campaign if we're gonna do that. But I very much enjoyed the encounters, including the post-campaign ones. The new enemies, Don't Talk to Me or My Insurrection Prime Son Ever Again, and Cursed Harpy were also great additions to the game. I really enjoy those new enemy types as little mini-boss or high-priority target encounters because they can be very lethal, and overall, I think have a really cool design. Great job on that. Would love to see more enemy variants just like those. Cutscenes were very heavy at the start, which I loved to see, but slowed down towards the end. I was really hoping for a bit more back and forth with Eris and Drifter, considering how much they felt like they've been a part of this mysterious darkness plotline over the past year. They fought some stuff in a cutscene, and then they had a couple of lines where you could talk to them, and they would just say a bunch of lines at you, and then they just kind of peaced out. I realized that this is the Exo Strangers show, but a bit more insight from both of them would have been pretty nice. That being said, most of my friends who are more in tune with the lore than I am have said that this expansion has been a dream for them. There have been some awesome reveals in the Born in Darkness quest chain, little pieces of backstory, learning about the history of Clovis Bray. It's so nice to learn about things in-game and having them be a part of the main story experience, even if it's just literally NPCs talking to each other. It felt like I was actually experiencing a lore card in front of my eyes. I will say that Ghost felt pretty whiny for most of the experience in the campaign, but I was very pleasantly surprised when I got an apology randomly walking into a Braytech lab from the Ghost. So, apology accepted. Bungie definitely made the most strides in the story lore department, and I really hope it keeps up. Some other minor things include faster load times, the new lighting, and the revised UI. These are all really good. The new lighting really hit me when I first loaded into the Scarlet Keep Strike. I really noticed its effects there, and it looks fantastic. The dark UI and the tweaks, all there, are great. Also, Team Lost Sector. I know people are just going to be like, lol, Lost Sectors, but again, Bungie did a great job on Lost Sectors in this expansion, much like Shadowkeep. Very, very well done. I'm probably going to do an individual video for the launch of Season 12 and first impressions for that when it finally gets rolling. This I really just wanted to keep focused on Beyond Light because you don't get Season 12 with Beyond Light, so I want to judge them independently. Beyond Light's major sandbox update includes the addition of Stasis, a new subclass. However, you don't get access to it until you finish the campaign, and you don't get access to aspects and fragments until you start completing Born in Darkness, which is a questline from the Stranger. You'll unlock more as the season goes on. As a result, some of my starting feedback was that Stasis felt a little weak, but that's because we don't have all of the tools at our disposal yet. I've only played with Titan and Warlock thus far, and Titan's Stasis felt much weaker than Warlock at base, but as soon as I unlocked an aspect for Titan, the slidey one, things felt better, especially combined with Salvation's Grip, the Stasis shooting grenade launcher. The verdict, I think, is still out on how good Stasis as a whole will end up being in PvE, since we don't have its full potential unlocked yet, and because I'm waiting for higher gear levels to mess around in higher level content. I do think it'll have some value for more difficult content, but lower level content does not need Stasis in that it doesn't feel stronger than the other subclasses, not that I think it was supposed to. But in PvP, well, it took me a couple of days before I started playing PvP, so I only heard stories. On my third day of the expansion, I entered the competitive playlist to get some gear. And thanks, but wow, Stasis is in the game. First off, has anyone ever heard of diminishing returns? At all? I was blown away by how much better Warlock is than the other two classes when it comes to the freezing part of the subclass, the freeze aspect of it. Titan, I think, is bottom tier when it comes to actually freezing things, but with the first aspect available, Titans have some of the most insane movement capabilities the game has to offer. If you hated slide shotgun before, let me tell you, it's about to be way, way worse. The Warlock melee is one of the most busted things I've ever seen in this game. I'm almost impressed by it. Nearly every class has something pretty infuriating to die to, whether it's Titans slide shotgunning you from 15 meters out, a Warlock 180 or cross-map melee freeze, or Hunter flicking their little dinkers at you and having them ricochet off of random surfaces and killing you. We're not even at full power yet when it comes to Stasis, and I know everyone is trying it out right now, but if I did not have to grind competitive PvP for powerful drops, I would be staying away from PvP until Bungie manages to make some adjustments, because it definitely came into the game overtuned. I think my eyeballs are going to tear away from their optic nerve at the rate I roll my eyes whenever I get frozen in PvP. Memories of Mountaintop. Fun to use, infuriating to die to. The gameplay loop of Beyond Light is... I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it is. Well, you know, we're going to have the raid, but Beyond Light itself does not appear to have many things besides Empire hunts, which ultimately seem like they're going to be nightmare hunts, sorta. There's also legendary lost sectors where you'll be getting most exotics, and I kind of like the concept of having to go do some moderately difficult content in order to get high-level gear. Who would have thought? I know solo players have been begging for some more solo content. This is basically endgame level solo content. It looks like you'll be able to farm some exotics in there, which I think is nice for those players. It's nice to have an option for those players. I was able to solo the Legend Lost Sector at 1225 for the Icefall Mantle on my Titan, in case you want to get a head start on trying to get some of those exotics. Beyond Light has kind of felt like a season in that it feels like the launch didn't have everything it has to offer right off the bat. Of course, the leveling grind is more or less unchanged, and this is where the removal of a lot of content kind of hurts. Lots of strikes removed, lots of PvP maps removed, although a lot of good ones still remain. Even Gambit had some reductions. When Season 12 really begins, we'll have a bit more stuff to do there, but in terms of Beyond Light itself, the majority of power drops are Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit. The leveling grind doesn't really do much for me. It hasn't for a while, especially since it's been unchanged for so long. You know, we're still going back to D2 Year 1 strikes, still grinding bounty kills. Gearing up just doesn't really scratch any sort of an itch other than, I need to hit 1250 because that's the number. And let me tell you, competitive PvP being one of the best ways to level up is not really my vibe. Also, really random, I would like to propose a new strike playlist. Whoever was the enemy density designer for Beyond Light, well, you did a good job with supplying a lot of enemies for me to kill during the campaign. And guess what? You're all promoted to senior enemy density designers. Yeah, you're promoted, all of you. You get dental, and your first job is to make a strike playlist that has triple the amount of enemies in it. Same power scaling, keep all that. But my god, put some more enemies in strikes. I am so tired of fighting for kills with my teammates. I'm tired of fighting to have fun. We're so powerful, we're so lethal. At least give me a ton of enemies to absolutely destroy if we're gonna be this way. Grab the Lost Sector team while you're at it, right? Collaborate together. Give me something there. As for the weapon sunsetting situation, well, as soon as I saw myself get a Long Shadow, a gun that is not new to the game, as a reward for Europa-based new content to the game, I knew we were going to be in for a bumpy ride. I don't know who thought that no one would be mad at that, but reality check. Well, you know, at least we got 3 new armor sets from each of the vendors. Well, no, it's, I mean, I guess that's looking more like 1 if we actually take any sort of look at the armor. Yeah, that's not a good look at all. Now, I was a rather significant supporter of weapon sunsetting. I still am, mostly. But I was a supporter based on the concept of Bungie being able to bring some heat with Beyond Light, which I realize is literally the opposite of Stasis. And it's pretty obvious that so far we have fallen flat. Insert power creep conversation that we've had 1,000 times right here. Did I think Bungie was going to replace every single sunset gun with another? No, definitely not. Did I think there would be more than what we got? Yeah. Over the next few seasons, the loot pool will slowly be replenished via seasonal drops and weapons and all that, and eventually we'll get to an equilibrium, where the same amount of stuff that rotates out will be replaced with stuff that rotates in. We will have a smaller loot pool as a result compared to the past history of the game. It will be better over time. It is a long-term play. The problem is that no one wants to hear that right now because dozens of weapons from multiple years just got sunset from the game and were replaced with guns that have barely any damage perks on them, and the seasonal ritual weapon is a sniper that uses the same model of one we already have but has a cloth on it now. Yeah, I know Beloved and Adored are very similar names, and that's probably very intentional. Okay. We've done enough waiting. No one wants to hear that it's going to take another few seasons to hit equilibrium, because it feels like we're constantly waiting for things to be at that level that we want them to be. What might have worked out better is retiring only 1 or 2 seasons worth of stuff as opposed to 4 or 5 of them all at once, and have a more gradual approach. We had Forsaken stuff, that's Season 4, through Season 8, retire all at once, including Shadowkeep items. Season 9, 10, and 11 stuff is not accessible to earn anymore. We lost a lot of archetype and element combos at once. I've seen a lot of frustration at the game asking you for machine gun kills on a bounty despite there only being 1 earnable machine gun, which you may not have yet. While I'm still on the Sunset train, the pacing probably could have been done a little bit better. I think making Shadowkeep weapons available again in terms of infusion would not be the worst idea. Same for the Dreaming City when Season 12 starts to actually ramp up, because otherwise, both of these destinations are also worthless outside of their campaigns, but they cost money. If we're going to be spending that much time in the DC in Season 12, bringing back some guns from there and maybe revising their perk pools wouldn't be the worst idea. We need to relieve some pressure here. But speaking of perks, another reason I think sunsetting was done as aggressively as it was because of perk combinations. It's very obvious that Bungie wants to move away from your standard Outlaw Rampage perk combo on primary weapons. I base this on 2 things. Number 1, they're introducing more situational reload and damage perks. And 2, they're just straight up not putting those powerhouse perks on primary weapons together anymore. So for those of you with Gnawing Hungers or the like with top tier perks, you're probably going to be using that until it rotates out of the game a year from now. Bungie introduced some new perks: Surplus, Thresh, Chain Reaction, Wellspring, Dual Loader for shotguns, One for All with specials. There's only 1 gun that I've seen, Stars in Shadow, which is a pulse rifle, that can get Outlaw Kill Clip. And that's in a perk pool of about 12 perks per slot on that gun. I imagine wiping out a lot of guns with these perk combinations was part of the intent of the giant purge of weaponry, to get people to try new perk combinations and to get people very quickly used to the mindset that the past 6 years of Outlaw Rampage dominance is going to come to a close. Personally, another thing is that I have not been infusing too much of my stuff, so it feels like I'm using barely any of my old arsenal from my vault. I haven't broken out any of the things that I've saved in the past year or so. I think once I start to do that, myself and maybe others would feel a little bit better about the whole situation. Is it time for Bungie to ditch locked elements on weapons? Is it time? Just a hypothetical. It would certainly help alleviate a lot of pressure right now with people missing certain elemental archetypes if guns could roll with a random element on them. Although, of course, you now have to throw in another layer of RNG. I'll also put out the idea of random rate of fire as well. For example, same hand cannon being able to roll 120, 140, and 180 RPM. I know there's another layer of RNG there, but, you know, anything to alleviate pressure right now, I don't think would be a terrible idea. I also played New Light 2.0, took about an hour to hour and a half to complete. Great introduction for new Destiny players. It actually gives you some guidance and instruction, it teaches you about the world, actually gives some context on the Fallen and the Hive, something I don't feel like we even got in Destiny 1, which I appreciated. It does exist because of the removal of the Red War campaign, though. Bungie needed to replace that as the new player experience because it's literally not here anymore. But I think Bungie also needed a better I don't have friends but I want to play Destiny intro to the game, and I think they succeeded there. So, story, gameplay loop, stasis, weapon sunsetting, New Light 2.0, those are the big things I wanted to hit. I also wanted to hit some takes from the community that I've been seeing. A lot of them bad. So, I mean, there's some good ones out there. But man, there's some bad ones. I've seen some comments that Beyond Light should have just been Destiny 3, and or people saying that this is what Destiny 3 would have been, which is a really dumb take. Making Destiny 3 would be a 3-year process. Bungie would never get away with launching Beyond Light as a full sequel to Destiny 2. What kind of a take is this? Or that the next 3 expansions were going to be Destiny 3, but instead they split them into individual expansions? What are these conspiracy theories? It feels like Bungie is barely able to supply us the things we get, and y'all think they're secretly hiding a full sequel? Where? Next is the comparisons to Forsaken. I don't think comparing Forsaken and Beyond Light is an apt comparison. It's just not. They were not built under the same circumstances. Bungie had Activision Publishing and other studios helping them build content for that whole expansion and year and season stuff and all that. For Beyond Light, Bungie did not have extra studios, no Activision Publishing, and they were working from home for about 10 months of it. But I know you're going to hit me with they're both $40. I can hear it literally right now. I don't know why Beyond Light's $40. I don't. Unfortunately for me, I don't have much of an argument here because regardless of what I say, it's always going to come back to both are $40. Forsaken had this amount of content. Beyond Light had less. Therefore, sucks IMO. I get it. Right? I get it. Overall, I liked Beyond Light itself. In a vacuum, I thought it was pretty good. It just happens to come with a lot of baggage from the rest of the game itself that can feel like it takes away from the experience. I think one of the issues is that things didn't feel like they changed enough. After getting to experience Beyond Light and its offerings, it kind of just felt like things went back to the way they were, and I think that people were hoping that something else would happen, even if it was never said that anything was really going to change in a significant way. Systems like leveling, bounties, they just kind of feel outdated and take away from some of the experience of Beyond Light. But as I'm writing this and recording this, we're 5 days in, and it's tough to judge an entire expansion and season that technically hasn't really even started yet based on its first 5 days. My hope is that things take a turn for the better over the next little while. Obviously, my fear is that they don't. I think Bungie's made some big strides in story and lore for this expansion. And part of me does wonder what a Destiny world looks like where it doesn't have to be a game as a service, where it's just Bungie making more chapters of story gameplay every so often. You know, I don't know where we're going from here. People are not happy. And at this point, I'm not really sure what Bungie can do to make people happy besides bringing back everything that they took out of the game, and that's just for starters. Bungie has built so much stuff with this removal in mind, and I think it's probably impossible to go back and hit the reset button. Powerful and pinnacle drops are mainly core content like we've seen before. The removal of old content wasn't purely because Bungie was just saying, screw it. They literally have said that they can't keep inflating the game's size. Part of it is absolutely a technical issue. Now, I've seen some "that sounds like a Bungie problem" takes from the community. Not the hugest fan of that one. I know some people are upset about content removal, but I would rather have a working Destiny than one that can't be updated anymore because it's too big for a console. Not a huge fan of the Bungie is stupid and lazy takes I've seen either. Pretty terrible take there from you armchair developers out there who know everything. Disagreeing with design philosophies is fine. Name calling just makes you look like a child, and no one will ever take your feedback seriously. I feel the same way about Beyond Light as I did with Borderlands 3, in that it's just more Destiny. And I like Destiny, and I like more Destiny, and that's cool. And if you like Destiny, great, here's some more. But things have become formulaic. Maybe a little too formulaic for that hardcore crowd. We're becoming jaded over the experience. And I think the fact of the matter is, Bungie is just not going to be able to produce enough content for what people expect. Basically, at any leveling in old content situation, I don't think we ever get to a spot where you can level by only playing new content because there just won't ever be enough to make that happen. For example, if you could only level through Beyond Light and Season 12 content, you'd have, 3 to 5 individual power drops and then the raid. All previous content would become useless. And it's pretty obvious that Bungie doesn't want that to happen. It just won't ever be enough for people, which is a good and bad problem to have, really. I want to see how Beyond Light shapes up over the next few weeks, what the daily and weekly cadence is going to look like before giving any sort of ultimatums. Obviously, gotta wait for Season 12 to roll out as well. I'm not anticipating any grand changes, though. This is still going to be the Destiny that you've known, and my guess is that this next year will feel similar to the previous when it comes to content offerings. I think story offerings will be better over the year, just based on Beyond Light's improvement, but if you're hoping for these incredible, sweeping, huge adjustments, I don't really think they're here just yet, if they do show up at all. Those are my first impressions of Beyond Light. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.